Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the TBR tag, but before we go ahead and get on into the tag, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new content. I post new bookish videos every Monday, Thursday, Saturday, and sometimes other days throughout the week. Also, don't forget to check down in the description box below for links to all of my social medias, my Buddy Read Discord, and my Patreon, where you can be entered into winning book giveaways. Prompt number one is how do I keep track of my TBR pile, and I use Goodreads. I think Goodreads is a really good tool for having a TBR and adding like books hypothetically to a TBR, but I also use Google Sheets, and I usually link the Google Sheets of all the books on my TBR down in the description box, so check that down below if you're interested in looking at all of the physical books on my TBR. I like using that better because those are books that I actually physically own, whereas on Goodreads, I'll put books that I'm interested in the reading eventually that I might not own or that I might have to get from the library or that I might listen to on audiobook, so on and so forth. So I like to use Goodreads for the hypothetical TBR in addition to books that are on my TBR physically. And the Google Sheets is more of a personal TBR tool. Prompt two is your TBR mostly physical books or ebooks? And for me, physical books, I don't have an e-reader and I would have to read on the Kindle app on my phone, which I have done before, but it's definitely not my favorite. And I actually do have a lot of ebooks. I have a tendency to go onto like Amazon and download, $1.99 or free ebooks and then forget that I've done it and never read it. And these poor authors are probably like, where's my review? And that is something that I would like to get through eventually, is some of those ebooks that I have downloaded for free or like $1 and read them and support, because usually they're indie authors, like actually support, these authors that are waiting for their reviews and feedback years later. But yeah, I prefer physical books, so that is mostly what my TBR is made up of. Prompt three is a book that has been on your TBR for longest, and I'm going to go with a couple of Charles Dickens books. I have this anthology of his, and it includes Oliver Twist, A Tale of Two Cities, Great Expectations, and A Christmas Carol, and I've only read Great Expectations and A Christmas Carol, so I still need to read A Tale of Two Cities and Oliver Twist. And if you watched my classic books that I want to read in 2022 video, if not, I'll link it up in the cards, I did say that I wanted to read A Tale of Two Cities this year, so I'm going to try and knock off some of those classics that have been on my TBR for the longest time. I got this book when I was like a teenager in high school. My parents gave it to me for Christmas, and I have had it ever since. The next prompt is a book that you just added to your TBR, and I did my Christmas book haul a couple of weeks ago, so once again, I'll link that up in the cards if you're interested in checking it out. I have not gotten any new books since then, but I'll just pick one book off of that Christmas book haul, and that is Defy the Night by Bridget Kemmer. This is a YA fantasy. Bridget Kemmer is definitely an author that I have enjoyed everything I've read by her, but this is an interesting world because it follows a kingdom that has been plagued by this really strange sickness, and there is this flower that can be harvested for the antidote, but this antidote is being kept somehow from like the poorer population. So our main character is an apothecary, and she starts to investigate what's going on and why the antidote can't get to these poor people, and uncovers all of these things going on within the political system and the monarchy, and has to go to the castle and deal with it and address the prince there. So like I said, really enjoy Bridget Kemmer, and I'm super excited to delve into this new series by her. And also, I love the cover. It's shiny, it's shimmery, it's so pretty. And that actually kind of leads into the next prompt, which is a book on your TBR because of the cover. And this isn't only because of the cover, but the cover is very pretty. And that is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I've read two Naomi Novik books by now. I have read Uprooted and Spinning Silver, and I liked both of them, Uprooted more than Spinning Silver. But she is a beautiful, beautiful writer and writes very fairy tale-esque, atmospheric stories. And this book follows a girl that is at this school. It's like a magic school, and they have to go through all these trials, but if they don't pass the trials, they can't graduate, they actually die. And that's really all I know about it. And I know that the second book came out last year, and I'm guessing the third book might come out this year, but I really want to start this series. It is a series I want to get to in 2022, but I absolutely love the cover. I love the matte black. I love the gold. It looks like to me, I know this is not a Ferris wheel, but it looks like a Ferris wheel to me. And even the inside, like the flaps are all shimmery gold. So it's just like quite a beautiful book. The next prompt is a book that is on your TBR that you're probably never going to read, and I actually did a book on haul pretty recently, so I'll go ahead and link that up in the cards if you guys want to check it out. So I finally got some books off of my shelves that I decided I was finally never going to read. So I'm going to go with Rook by Sharon Cameron. I've kept this one on my shelves because it has piqued my interest, and if I decide I don't want to read it, it is a YA, so I can definitely just put it in my classroom for my students to read. But this is a historical reimagining. From my understanding, I don't really know that much about it, and it is a standalone, but it follows Paris, but it's not really Paris anymore. It's called The Sunken City. It used to be Paris, and it follows kind of like these musketeer-like characters, and that's all I know about it. So it piques my interest because of that, like a musketeer retelling, kind of like Paris or French influences, and it just sounded cute and good, so I picked it up, but I just haven't gotten to it yet, and I don't know if I will. Another thing is Scholastic. It's published by Scholastic. I'm really not a fan of how Scholastic binds their books. They are super, super stiff, and they're really hard to open without breaking the spine. Like, they are stiff paperbacks, not floppy paperbacks, which is just like a silly gripe, but yeah, they're just not fun to read physically. So I haven't decided if I'm going to get to Rook. Next is an unpublished book on your TBR that you're super excited for, and I've done my most anticipated 2022 sci-fi and fantasy adult book releases, and when I was doing the fantasy one, I did not know that B.E. Schwab was publishing a book in 2022. I don't know how that passed me by, but she is one of my favorite authors of all time, and she is putting out a new book called Gallant, and I was thinking about pre-ordering it. I'm so excited. It sounds so good, so this is definitely the one that I am super pumped about in 2022. But in Gallant, we follow a girl named Olivia who has pretty much grown up at a boarding school, and one day she receives a letter from her family to come home. And so she goes home to this manor called Gallant, and no one wrote her the letter. They weren't expecting her. By the way, her mother's dead. So like she's trying to figure out what's going on and why everybody's so hostile towards her. And one day she accidentally crosses this crumbling wall on the manor and is basically thrust into kind of like an alternate, it sounds like an alternate reality or an alternate world of her home, and she starts to uncover exactly why the manor is in such disarray, that there's some sort of like evil that has crept into this manor and has taken over it, and it just sounds really good. I know I probably was not describing that well at all, but I trust B.E. Shaw because I've really loved everything that she's written, so definitely a book that I will be reading when it comes out. The next prompt is a book on your TBR that everyone seems to have read, but you have not. I'm going to go with Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This was a book that was published last year, and it's an adult sci-fi by the author that wrote The Martian, and a lot of people that I follow online and on BookTube have read this and reviewed this, and I just didn't get to it, even though I think at one time it might have been on my monthly TBR. But this follows a guy that is on a mission to check out this new world, to help colonize this new world because Earth is pretty much done. And on the way, he wakes up to find that he is the only person left on his spaceship. All of his crewmates have died, and he is left with this like strange presence. And the back of the book doesn't say what it is, and he has to kind of navigate how he's going to save humankind from this impending evil in space. And I wanted to read it because Andy Weir is known for having like really good humor and including a lot of like science into his stories to kind of like balance the humor. So I've heard good things about this, and I do want to get to it this year. The next prompt is a book on your TBR that everyone recommends to you, and I'm going to go with The Discworld books by Terry Pratchett. I've been recommended different ones to start with. I always assumed you had to start with the first book in the series, you know, go chronologically, but I guess you can kind of jump into any of these books and read them, but I've been recommended Guards. So everyone says that Terry Pratchett in this world is so fun, it's so satirical, and it's one that I definitely need to read if I'm looking for like a fun light fantasy. I've heard that it has steampunk elements, which definitely piqued my interest. So I will be getting to Terry Pratchett as soon as I can because my interest is definitely piqued with how many times I have been recommended the Discworld series. And lastly, we have a book on my TBR that I'm dying to read, and I'm going to have to go with the new Caraval book, Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I absolutely loved the Caraval series. I thought it was so atmospheric, so clever. It's about a carnival type game and these different characters that are part of the game in order to solve a mystery, and we follow these two different sisters as they are trying to uncover what's going on with the inventor of this game. And Stephanie Garber just has such beautiful writing, and she writes these characters, and the relationships, especially the romances, have so much angst. And our main character is Jax, who is kind of like a mischievous character from the Caraval series, and I just can't wait to read more about him and his new love interest and what's going on in this new series. So another series that I want to get to in 2022. All right, you guys, that is it for the TBR tag. Let me know in the comments some of the answers to some of these prompts, or if you are interested in doing this tag, I tag you, and I will see you guys in another video soon. Goodbye.